One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. On One Question today is Kevin McDonald, who is the executive director of the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, but he is also the new chairman of the Football Bowl Association. And Kevin, I think where we should start this conversation is recent developments last bowl season of Leonard Fournette at LSU and Christian McCaffrey at Stanford, sitting out their respective bowl games for NFL draft potential reasons, being cognizant of potential injury, etc. And now that both were selected in the top 8 picks overall in the NFL draft last month, there is some speculation by those in the mainstream media that more student athletes may choose to take this path, those who could be very high draft picks. As the chairman of the FBA and speaking for your membership, is this a situation that you guys are worried about, or do you think the market takes care of itself?
Well, it's definitely a topic of discussion inside the Bowl Association that we hate to see the stars of college football not participate in postseason college football, and hope conversations with schools, with different groups who are interested in postseason college football will want to talk about and really address. We do realize that there are certain student athletes who feel like that there's a risk inherent in playing postseason games, really no different than there is a inherent issue with injury in the regular season. We just hope we can continue to have some conversations and hopefully also underscore the idea that there's just as many student athletes in college football who in the bowl game can actually highlight and greatly increase their stock when it comes to the NFL draft.
How about some major initiatives on your plate as the new chairman of the FBA? What are some things you want to peck off the list and get done?
Yeah, so I think it's important that really we as an association really work and continue to work at the student-athlete experience. And I know it's something we always talk about, but as an association, I feel like that, we need to share what we do, whether you're in Albuquerque or Boise or New York City or Miami, as to how we improve that student-athlete experience, how we make it better, and we make it better for the student athlete. We create a lifetime experience for them that hopefully they'll remember their experience in their bowl games years after playing football. And we need to do a good job of telling that story. And I think that's something that we really want to focus on, because these student athletes tell us in research and surveys that we do at the end of the year that they're enjoying the bowl games at a very high level. We want to make sure that the fan and the media know it and understand that. So that's one thing we want to work on.
Sure. Is there a difficult position with the media these days that what sells, what generates eyeballs through their stories is not always the feel good, and that challenge of trying to tell that message effectively when they might be going for a different angle?
Well, I think that's always the case. Realizing the news outlets, sports outlets, they're looking for particular stories. Sometimes those are really good stories, and in good stories, I guess, in the eyes of the student athlete, and maybe sometimes it's going after something that seems to be a little controversial, and we just want to make sure that we're focusing back, and we want to tell the story of the student athlete, because that's what these games are all about. It's about the student athlete, it's about the fan, it's about what the schools get back out of being involved in a bowl game, and the impact that creates inside these communities where these bowl games are played.
How does preparation change from going from a member of the committee to the chairman role? How will that change your monthly preparation schedule of keeping your peers in the loop and getting ready for conversations and meetings, etc.?
Well, we want to, work on following our strategic plan that moves our association forward. We just recently went through a review, and so, we'll talk about how how we're doing in regard to that plan, passing that out to the association. We only meet one time a year, so as a group, we try to make sure we're going over where we're going, how we're doing. The job in the executive committee of running our association is a little bit different now that we have an executive director. And Wright Waters has done a great job as our executive director, and the executive committee's really become more of what it should be, which is more of a governance body versus an actual go out and do a group. There still is a large amount of work that we as a membership have to do, but to have somebody like Wright there to be able to oversee day to day what we're doing as an association is really a big help. But it's a lot about what's coming up inside the NCAA. It's about issues like players skipping bowl games. The opportunities to we look at everything from financial models as bowl games. Bowl games are owned and operated a little bit differently than they were even 5 or 10 years ago. There's probably fewer nonprofits who own and operate bowl games, and now bowl games are owned and operated by NFL teams. The New York Yankees own a bowl game. ESPN owns bowl games. A lot of bowl games are operated, through the sports commissions inside communities. And so, as our conference partners ask and want to do things differently inside, our partnership with them, we have to continue to look at, ourselves and our models and say, are we really in the best place going forward? And if we're not, we need to make sure that we're looking at how we make the changes we need to to continue to grow and prosper in our industry.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.